So I call it a sales training, but I don't really care for the word sales. I ran an advertising agency for 30 years. I never sold anything to anybody. I help people understand products. I help them understand the buying decision, help them even understand their own mind in some cases. But overall, I think I just help people make better decisions. You know, to me, selling is explaining, selling is teaching. But winning the sale is all about connecting. And connecting with a customer base based on what they care about wins you more jobs, with better customers, easier and more successfully than just by being the lowest bid. Anybody here heard of the path to purchase? The path to purchase is basically just the customer's journey from when they figure out they need something to whatever they need to go through, research, number crunching, whatever it is to get to the eventual buying decision. But the path to purchase for a heating system is different from anything else in our economy. It's not a consumer item. It's technical, it's complicated, it's expensive, so it's stressful. And most people don't buy more than one or two in their lifetime, so everyone's an amateur. Well, today the whole path to purchase for heating systems is starting to change. More and more, consumers want off of fossil fuels. They want to do something different. And they're not afraid to go out on Google and research their options. So you guys all need to maintain your position as the trusted resource, not just in the technology, but also you need to be able to explain the why of pellet boilers, the green energy advantages and philosophy behind pellet boilers. That's the way you connect with customers and prospects that care, at least the ones that care about sustainability, and I'm going to show you step by step how to do that. So first I'm going to introduce you to two concepts, and the first one is behavioral economics. So, long story short, the science of behavioral economics proves over and over again that we are not the rational decision makers we think we are. You think your customers are crunching the numbers and figuring out the capitalization cost and the cost of fuel and all these other things. And you even think that when you buy something, that's what you're doing. In fact, I'm sure you would swear that's what you're doing. But the science proves that we're fooling ourselves. We're making decisions on all kinds of factors, emotion and context and other reasons, our values and beliefs. And then what we're doing is we're rationalizing that decision with the economics and other arguments. So we need to dig a little deeper. We need to ask, why do people want off of oil? And over the past 10 years, both as Director of Sales for Pellergy and as my role as an industry volunteer, I've had hundreds of consumer contacts, and the ones that stands out to me the most is this young mom down in Westchester named Sophie, and her email ended with the sentence that she would do anything to avoid an apocalyptic future for her children. Well, that's pretty strongly stated, and I don't think most people are going to say that, but I think in the back of their mind, a lot of people are thinking that way. And of course, that's one incredibly powerful emotion. But that's not all. The second thing is this thing called social capital. Social capital. And the bottom line of social capital is that people want credit for doing the right thing. So when you see solar panels on the roof and a Prius in the driveway, those customers are saying, look at how insightful and altruistic I am. I'm insightful because I discovered this amazing thing, and I'm altruistic because I'm doing the right thing. But people aren't going to say that. But that's why pellet boilers are the cool technology for a certain segment. And customers are going to look to you to help them justify their choice. They already want to buy one. They just want some justification for it. And you want to help them do that, so they'll buy from you instead of one of your competitors. So right now I'm going to take you through a series of fact sheets that we've developed to help you connect with your customers who are considering a pellet boiler. And these fact sheets are available to you for free. With your company logo down on the bottom, you can see on the sheets where it says co-brand. And each sheet has a punchline, a point. And it's not on the sheet. I'm going to tell you what it is, and you can write it on the back of the sheet. But before we start, I'd like you to shift to adopt the mindset of a teacher. Shift your approach from passive learning to someone who's going to be able to explain this to somebody else. I want to help you feel confident and competent about the why of wood pellet central heating. So the first one is, twice as much as a hybrid car and 3 times more than solar panels, switching to an oil boiler, from an oil boiler to a pellet boiler is by far your customer's biggest carbon footprint reduction. Heating in the Northeast and cold climates like Vermont can be up to half of your entire carbon footprint. The other half would be electricity, food, transportation. So this is a huge piece of a household's carbon footprint. And I know this number is kind of unbelievable on the graphic, but this graph is actually conservative. The real number is more like 9 tons of carbon emissions taken out of the atmosphere for a typical house. And on this chart, all that small print on the right is all the data behind how these numbers were calculated. So somebody wants to, take a shot at this, have at it. Now, I just want to mention quickly, wood stoves are great because they offset fossil fuel BTUs, and it's always better to use a biogenic carbon than a geologic carbon. And pellet stoves are even better because they offset those fossil fuel BTUs, and they use low-grade waste wood that's made from renewable wood pellets. But switching that oil boiler to a pellet boiler has by far the biggest impact, not just on carbon reduction, but also on forest jobs, habitat, clean water, bird migrations, it goes on. And just imagine the impact of keeping our heating dollars local. 78 cents of every dollar we spend on imported fossil fuels leaves the region. By creating jobs in forestry, logging, pellet manufacturing, and trucking, we'll be reinvesting $70 million just here in Vermont back into our local economy instead of sending $131 million out of state every year to the big oil conglomerates and, frankly, to countries that hate us. The point for your sheet is heating in the Northeast can be up to half of a household's carbon footprint, so it's by far the single biggest opportunity for a homeowner to make a real difference. So I recently come to believe that the problem with selling wood pellet boilers, I've been at this for 10 years and we're not getting enough traction. So I've come to believe that the problem with selling pellet boilers is that we're trying to sell pellet boilers, and that just doesn't pass the why should anybody care test. It's really about this whole virtuous cycle of sustainable forestry and sustainable heating, and the homeowner's role in creating that sustainable wood heating community. You guys love the technology. I'm an HVAC geek. I love the technology. But when we're communicating with our customers, we need to shift at least part of our focus to the fuel. So the boiler is the enabling technology, but this amazing engineered wood fuel that makes this whole virtuous cycle possible. So where do wood pellets come from? Well, they come from low-grade timber, called pulpwood in some cases, because it used to be used for making paper, but now we live in the digital age and we're using a whole lot less paper. So we need to rebuild that market with renewable pellet heating fuel in order to prevent forested lands from being developed. Now, landowners, loggers, and foresters don't get paid for sequestering carbon with sustainable forestry practices, but that's an important byproduct of the working forest economy. Choosing to heat with renewable wood pellet heating fuel and green tech pellet boilers makes it easy for anyone to play an important role in their green heating community. And that's what we want people to feel. We want them to feel a sense of community. It's a little like CSAs, right? Community supported agriculture. Those aren't just about the food. It's about supporting local farmers instead of big industrial agriculture. It's about inside information. It's about how individual choices collectively can make a big impact. And so the point for this cell sheet is all about the virtuous cycle between sustainable heating and sustainable forestry. You, Mr. Homeowner, you empower this whole community through your heating fuel choice. Contrary to popular belief, most Vermont forests are not protected. About a third are in the current use program, and another 55% is privately owned, and they're all at risk for development unless we create a new market for pulpwood. 70% of what gets pulled out of the woods during harvest is low-grade pulpwood. 70%. The New England market for pulpwood has lost 2.1 million tons of capacity since 2009 due to all the paper mill closures. So the point, again, if you want to write it down in the back, when your heating choice rebuilds the market for pulpwood, you're actually helping your neighbors maintain their lands as forests instead of and resisting the quick lure of profits from development. Think of a tree as a solar battery. As a tree grows, sunlight, rainfall, and carbon dioxide combine to store the sun's energy. Trees begin to absorb carbon in their first few years of life, and most of that active absorption happens before the tree is age 35. After that, it all levels off. At the end of its life, the tree releases the same amount of carbon dioxide, whether it rots on the forest floor or whether it's burned in a renewable EPA-approved pellet boiler. That's all part of the Earth's natural biogenic cycle, and it's way better than taking sequestered geologic carbon out of the Earth and adding it to the total carbon cycle. It's roughly carbon neutral, and the point of this sheet is that heating with clean tech pellet boilers is roughly carbon neutral. So, John started to talk about the bulk pellet delivery. This is the money shot. You know, I've spoken to Rotaries and green energy fairs and all kinds of people, and some people in this room, I'm sure, have had the experience of spending 10, 15, 20 minutes talking with a potential customer about pellet boilers, and at the end they shake your hand and walk away and say, thank you for telling me about your stoves. When they see this picture, they get it. It's completely hands-off. It's got weeks or months of automated heat. You can set your thermostat and forget it. And the point of this slide is that it's as convenient as oil heat. But before we go too far, I want you to pay special attention to that outside bin. It's the larger picture on the left. John has some pictures of the outside bins as well. The bin is important for our industry because that's how we empower social capital. The bin is our industry's solar panel. It's a way we can all increase our sales. And so here's a quick question. What's the most effective driver of green energy adoption? What's the most effective driver of green energy adoption?
Cost savings.
I hear that every time. Actually, the studies show that the answer is knowing what your neighbor does. Knowing what your neighbor does is the number one driver of green energy adoption. But we're in the basement. So visibility is both our original problem as an industry and at the top of the list for social contagion. So, quick story, in San Francisco, homes on the north side of the street are selling for more than homes on the south side of the street. Same school district, same distance to the supermarket. How come?
Because they're uninstructed solar exposure.
That's right. So if you live on the north side of the street, your roof with the solar panels faces south, and everybody can see how insightful and altruistic you are for doing the right thing. So outdoor bins are our solar panel if there's signage on it. If people think there's coffee beans in there, it doesn't do us any good. People want credit for doing the right thing, and we think people are going to love putting signage on their outdoor bins. But it's not a slam dunk. So the first thing we heard when we started working with Earhart was that customers said, sure, you can put signage on my bin for $100 a month. That's not the note that we want to hit. So what we did is we worked with Earhart to put together a letter to their customers. I'm going to read it to you now. It says, Dear Earhart pellet bin owner, what's your reason for switching to a pellet heating system? Was it the environment, support for forest industries, energy independence? Maybe it's keeping our heating dollars local or just getting off of fossil fuels. Whatever your reason, I bet many of your neighbors feel exactly the same way. Did you know that the number one driver of energy adoption is knowing what your neighbor does? Well, guess what? You're a green energy leader. They're going to like to hear that. And it's going to take people like us to change things for the better. Earhart has placed a huge bet on clean heat technology, and we sincerely value the trust that you've placed in us. Sound familiar? Today I'm writing to ask if you'll consider doing one more thing to help us jumpstart the clean heat movement in our community. Please take a look at the photo on this page. Would you be willing to fly the Earhart Clean Heat flag on your pellet bin for a year? We believe that's enough time to begin to create market awareness that will bring a cleaner environment and a stronger local economy to our community. That's how we want to appeal to our early adopters. That's the note we want to hit. We want to appeal to their intrinsic motivation for this cause. And that's our job at Sustainable Heating. It's not about our brand. It's about supporting you guys in the industry and how we can help your business. So I'm going to go from those fun fact sheets to more economic arguments, and here's what I recommend. Don't pull these out. Don't pull these out. Data kills emotion. We just spent all this time getting people excited about the cause, and we have to go here. We have to be ready to go here if they bring it up. But what I've heard from some of the best salespeople in the industry is that if the customer doesn't bring it up, don't bring it up. So here's the point of the first one, right? People don't think about this. Usually, if you live in a cold climate, your heating can be 2/3 of your household energy bill. So before you go buying solar panels for $20,000 or $30,000, consider a pellet boiler. It's lower installation costs, greater annual savings, and greater greenhouse gas reduction. So we all know how long a pellet boiler should last, about 25 years. So let's talk about the cost of fuel part of the equation. 25 years ago, in 1993, oil was 75 cents a gallon. Today, I have a low number here of $2.18, but still that's 3 times the price. I guarantee you, if in 1993, if somebody told you that during the lifetime of your boiler, oil was going to be $2, much less $4 when it spiked, you wouldn't have believed them. So considering if past the prologue and we have a straight line increase in prices, 25 years from now oil will be $6.50, maybe a little more per gallon. But during the next 25-year period, we're going to have peaks and valleys, and spikes would, given this same equation, would go to over $12 a gallon. But these estimates are actually conservative because we've got all the easy oil out of the ground already. And this market is going to be more volatile in the future than it is now. Now, it's true that pellets do go up in price, although they go up much more steadily and slowly, and that's what the bottom, I couldn't find a single graphic for Vermont, so the bottom graphic is actually for Maine, but the same dynamics apply. Fossil fuels go up and down and are volatile, partially because they're publicly traded, and therefore there's speculation in that market. I think you guys know, but just as a quick refresher, in Vermont we have 2 $3,000 rebates for pellet boilers. The first one is the RERC rebate, and here's the important thing you need to know. You need approval before work starts on that. And the Efficiency Vermont rebate has been increased to a flat rate of $3,000 for fiscal year 17. They've eliminated the pellet storage adder and the thermal efficiency adder, and all systems have to have at least a minimum of 21 days worth of pellet storage. So there's more information at the websites that are listed on that sheet. So the last sheet I want to talk to you about is loans. And there's a lot of human nature and behavior around loans. People don't want to do it. It's scary, there's work, there's effort. But look at what you get, possibly for as low as $100 a month. Not just an amazing piece of engineering. You get to know where your heat comes from. You get this virtuous cycle of sustainable forests and clean greenhouse gas emissions, some of the cleanest emissions in the history of heating. You get a community-supported ecosystem of foresters, loggers, pellet mills, fuel delivery trucks, and all while supporting your neighbors with forested lands and helping them resist the lure of quick profits from development. You might be able to roll it into your mortgage. Anyway, all it takes, I would urge your homeowner, that is just a phone call. Find out what's available to you. There are two other things that I want to bring your attention to. I don't have fact sheets on them, but there are points that I think that are worth making. The first one is on weatherization. And of course, I support weatherization. I've gone through 3 rounds of weatherization in my 1850s farmhouse. And homeowners need to do both. But the conventional wisdom is to weatherize first and upgrade your heating system second. But let's say you're a homeowner and your heating bill last year was $3,000. That's your pain point. And you weatherize. And over the next few years, increases in the cost of fossil fuels, well, it may put you higher at a higher annual total than that $3,000 you started with. A better plan is to change your fossil fuel heating system first, stop emitting greenhouse gases, and then use your fuel savings to help finance your weatherization. So that's the first one. The second one goes to heat pumps. And I know a lot of you install heat pumps, and heat pumps are great, especially if you have a tight home, and they provide cooling, of course, and all those other things. I support heat pumps. I don't have anything against heat pumps, but no matter how you leverage electricity with an air-to-air heat pump, air-to-water heat pump, geothermal heat pump, you're only going to get 75% of the way to your total heating load if you live in a cold place like Vermont. Now, absolutely, it's a great idea to offset that with on-site solar, because then you're also 75% of the way, not just to heating, but to sustainable heating. But if your goal is to truly be carbon neutral, then you have to get that last 75% either from EPA-approved wood stove, pellet stove, or pellet boiler. So this is going to be a little tough because I don't know how well you're going to be able to hear this. But I wanted to show you this 30-second commercial for Coca-Cola, and on the back end, I'm going to ask a question because I want to know what's missing from this commercial.
We, as the Coca-Cola Company, believe the health of our water sources is essential to the health of our communities, which is why we're helping to replenish the mighty Rio Grande, as well as over 30 watersheds across the country. We're also leading water projects in more than 100 communities, and for every drop we use, we're working to give one back, because our products rely on the same thing as we all do: clean water, and we care about it like our business depends on it.
What's missing?
Can of Coke.
Yeah, nobody's drinking Coke? There's no can of Coke? This is how things are going. This is how things are changing. In today's day and age, you need to have a cause. The millennials care. Now, I know a lot of you guys have fantastic reputations for your products that you install and your service, and that's really, really important. I'm not taking anything away from that. But adding a cause that connects you with your customers' values, helps you win sales in the short term, and also positions your company to thrive in the long term. The world is moving this way, and there's an opportunity for companies with vision. And I want to mention also that you've got support. You've got the new Vermont Renewable Energy Standards, you've got Vermont Incentives, and new marketing NGOs like Sustainable Heating and some others that are out there. I want to take a moment and tell you where we are in the technology adoption life cycle. So pellet boilers already have a foundation of innovators and early adopters. You guys are our meal ticket to breaking through to the early majority and busting this market wide open. So you play a really important role. And that's how, by working together, we could actually bend the arc of climate change. I got to tell you, the cause is that big. We think your customers are going to love learning about pellet boilers and all these facts that support their decision to buy one. We want to provide you these fact sheets for free. We'll put your company right there on the bottom. And you'll actually be helping us, because that's how we succeed. That's how we measure success. We need to show that we've supported the industry by partnering with lots and lots of you guys. We're a nonprofit, and that's how we measure success. So I want to say thank you for sharing some of your time with me. I think we've got a few minutes for questions, but I also want to mention that at 4:30 before you head out, you need to sign the sign-out sheet so that we know that you were here for the entire time. We'll have some evaluation forms. There's an evaluation form for John's presentation and an evaluation form for my presentation. And there's a checkbox there if you want to receive your free PDF of these pellet boiler fact sheets with your company logo. I think it's going to help you win sales by engaging and connecting with your customers. John, is it okay if I take a few minutes for questions?
Is there enough pellet manufacturers in the state of Vermont to meet the demand that we have now, or is there any more manufacturers looking to come online?
So I want to make a distinction between Vermont pellet mills and pellet mills, because we do have interstate commerce with this. I think that part of your question may also go to things that we've heard about pellet shortages in past years. And yeah, you know, the industry is going through growing pains. But the pellet shortages had to do with bagged pellets, because the mills know that if people are taking bulk delivery, that's their primary heating source. So we never had a shortage for bulk delivery. It was bags that people were having trouble getting.
But so if somebody's going to ask you, how is this going to help the Vermont forests? How much of the percentage that we burn?
We have one pellet mill down in, thank you, and another one that's in the works in the Northeast Kingdom. And it is true that it is better to keep the product, the forested, the trees close to the mill. But there is some travel there as well.
Just to follow up, how about bulk delivery companies?
So if you go on the sustainableheating.org website, there's actually a map. And you can get pellets everywhere in Vermont, New Hampshire. If you're looking for specific companies, I know that there's at least a couple in the room right now. And if Morty, you want to raise your hand? And Andy or Bill, there we go, Chip. Okay, so if you're looking for bulk delivery, those are two people right here in the room that will do it. Three. Oh, yes. Oh, sorry, guys.
I've been to your house,
Yes. And it's the efficiency excellence network. Yeah.
There was some comment I read about exporting pellets to Europe.
Yeah.
And is that an outrageous market that people can afford to?
So there's so many things that give this industry a black eye, and that's a huge one. And anyone who reads Biomass Magazine has read the articles that conflate pellets that are manufactured in the South, I think less than sustainably, although I don't want to say that definitively, and then are barged over to Europe to be burned in coal plants in a way that creates emissions that are basically as dirty as coal. There are better ways of creating electricity. There are no better ways of heating in a cold climate. In a cold climate, you need combustion. And so thank you for bringing that up. We actually had been approached by some of the players down in the South recently, and we'd love to see that. They want to hedge their options. They have a very profitable model right now, shipping pellets to Europe. And I think that the writing is somewhat on the wall about that, so they want to see what they can do to keep pellets here in the U.S. And that's a good thing.